Okay. Okay. So we are live on HPA-TV, so I'm going to get the meeting started. So good evening and welcome to this virtual public hearing on Tuesday, January 20th, 2026. The hearing is being broadcast live on HPA-TV or on channel 96 for Comcast Xfinity customers and 6032 for Frontier. It would also be streamed via HPA-TV.org, HPA-TV Facebook page, and HPA-TV Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon TV apps. It would also then be rebroadcast and made available on HPA-TV YouTube channel. I'm now calling to order this public hearing. The members here tonight is I am Councilman Shirley Surgeon. I'm chairing the public hearing, and we have Councilman John Gale and Councilman Josh Mitchum in the chambers. So again, good evening, everyone. Let me read a few housekeeping public hearing procedures for everyone. Each person wishing to address the council representing the public hearing therefore shall, upon recognition by the presiding officer, Councilman Surgeon, the chair, give his or her name, address, and if she or him represents a group, shall in addition state for the record the name and the address of said group or organization, and shall limit his or her remarks to 5 minutes. I will give a notification or to summarize when we have 1 minute left in the 5 minutes. You have to state your public comment of the public hearing. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or who shall becomes boisterous while addressing the council shall be barred by the council presiding officer and from further audience in this meeting. During the public hearing, there shall be no debate by the council, although questions may be asked by the council person making such presentation. We have one item. Let me also state that Councilman Alex, let me make sure I've got all my notes here. Also joining the public hearing is Councilman Alex Thomas, also is at the public hearing. Councilman Gale, if you would do me the favor and keep track of the 5 minutes timing, I would appreciate any assistance you can be. So there is one item on the agenda tonight, and that is an ordinance by Councilmember Josh Mitchum, amending Chapter 18, Article 6, Section 18-110 of the Municipal Code of Hartford to provide adequate relocation services to displaced tenants. We have several people who have signed up for the public hearing tonight. And what I'm going to do is the ones who have signed up, I was told that they are in favor of the ordinance, and I will go down the list. And after the ones who are in favor of the ordinance has been testified, I will ask 3 times again at the end of the testimony and ask if there's anyone that is against the ordinance to testify. So the first person on the list to testify is Victor Avila. Do we have Victor here? Ah, here he is.
Yep, just 1 second. I keep going.
I'm just here for interpretation.
And Victor, you've got 5 minutes, and we'll let you know when to summarize at the last minute of your testimony.
Okay. Pues aquí estamos nosotros.
I'm just gonna do it this way.
There's an echo.
Okay,
John.
now we can do it. We'll do it on mine so there's no echo.
Okay.
Venimos testificando nuevamente nuestro, nuestro accidente que pasó en Weathersfield Avenue, eh, hace 4 meses.
So I'm here testifying again about the incident that had happened on Weathersfield Avenue 3 or 4 months ago.
Y pues también pidiendo ayuda porque sinceramente los dueños no nos han hecho nuestro reembolso de nuestro depósito.
And really just asking for help sincerely because the owners, the landlords haven't paid us back our deposit.
Y pues también pidiendo que haya una ley que pueda ayudar más a la comunidad que sufre estos percances.
And asking for a law that would be able to help the community, help more anyone in the community who suffers this kind of situation.
Nosotros venimos peleando 3 años con este dueño.
And we've been fighting already. We've been fighting for 3 years with this landlord.
Y pues, si ustedes pueden chequear los registros, hubo muchas faltas de mantenimiento.
And if you go back and look at the records, you'll see that there were a lot of failures of maintenance.
Lo que todavía ahorita no nos damos una explicación es de que por qué la ciudad no pudo hacer algo con todas esas multas que le pusieron a ese dueño.
And what we still can't figure out, couldn't do anything, couldn't take any action with all of those fines that were imposed on this landlord.
Porque así se haya podido evitar este incendio en estos apartamentos.
Because maybe that way, we could have avoided having this fire break out that affected these apartments.
Y pues no haber quedado todas las familias que quedamos pues desalojadas de una vivienda hasta este momento.
And then in that way avoid that so many of us, these families, should have been displaced from our housing, which is where we're still at right now.
Pues la ciudad nos ha ayudado, pero también los hoteles que nos dieron eran unos hoteles, pues, sinceramente que pues no estaban bien.
And so they put us in hotels, but the hotels where they put us were, sincerely, they were not adequate.
Y pues también pues todavía estamos batallando por una vivienda porque pues nos lo dieron por 3 meses el hotel, pero ahorita para conseguir un apartamento es muy difícil.
And we're all still battling to try to find housing because they gave us the hotel for 3 months, but it's just really hard to find an apartment right now.
Para poder conseguir un apartamento le piden a uno 2 depósitos y un mes de renta.
So to get an apartment, obviously they ask for 3 months between deposit and first and last.
Y sinceramente todos los que tienen esos apartamentos son personas que no le dan seguimiento a sus apartamentos para mantenerlos bien.
And the truth is that all these apartments, these are people who are not doing good upkeep, not maintaining them well.
Nuestra reunión que estamos haciendo hoy la comunidad es para que nos puedan ayudar a tener una vivienda justa, una vivienda digna, no nada más para mí, sino para todas las personas necesitadas de bajos recursos.
And so the reason we all came here together today is because we need a fair housing, not just for me, but for everyone who's in need to have adequate housing.
Como le habíamos contado ahorita, nosotros venimos luchando por 3 largos años con este mismo dueño.
And as I've said, it's 3 long years that we have come along fighting against this same landlord.
En los cuales nosotros hicimos muchas quejas, mas él nunca hizo
Let me
caso de lo
also-
que nosotros
Let
le
me just
decíamos
say
que
that
había
we need to summarize,
fallas en los apartamentos.
a minute
And
to
we have
summarize.
made so many complaints, and throughout that, he never really respected and addressed what we had brought up.
Y pues
Sorry.
nosotros los ponemos en sus manos para que ustedes nos puedan ayudar.
And so we put it in your hands so that you can help us.
Thank you, Mr. Vela. I do see that Councilwoman Biladu is also a representative at the public hearing has also joined us. Next to speak would be Juan Mendez.
You don't need me.
Mr. Mendez? I can't hear. Mr. Mendez.
But hey, were you not hearing that?
Okay, no, we did not. So you have to start over again.
You know?
Yes, sir. Please go right ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everyone on the call. My name is Ramon, and I'm speaking on behalf of Juana Mendez, who was unable to make it to the victims of the fire at 271 Weathersfield Ave. It's unfair to have been left homeless, to have lost everything I worked so hard for. Many single mothers lived in this building, and we were all up to date on our rent. We had exhausting schedules. Only another single mother with an absent father could understand. Take the children to school and go to work, and then on October 30th, in the blink of an eye, we lost everything. No clothes, no shoes, nothing. Luckily, we are still alive. I lived on the third floor, and I thought I would never see my daughter again. It's stressful not knowing what to do and trying to maintain our composure and mental health for our children. And as time goes by, we continue to experience things we previously avoided, like our children living in a hotel where we don't have kitchens to provide healthy meals for. I've had to buy food on the street for myself and my daughter. And the only thing affordable and practical for our new way of life is junk food. Not only do I have to cover all these extra and unexpected expenses, but I also have to pay for housing applications, inspection fees, because many landlords don't want to pay them. And if the properties don't pass the city inspection, my finances are affected again unfairly, because I'm not to blame for the building where my daughter and I lived burning down due to the negligence of the landlord and the city's inspection department, which is under the mayor's authority. Now we find ourselves in a situation where if we don't have the money to pay the security deposit and the first month's rent, the city will delay paying the new landlords. The city needs to be more efficient so that we can find a clean and safe place to live. The city needs to have a system that streamlines the procedures. We don't understand why the money isn't given directly to the families, but only to the landlords, as if we don't know how to manage our own money. With this ordinance, at least it'll prevent other people from going through the city's poor organization to make these events less traumatic. The money I earn because I haven't stopped working is to replace everything we've lost. And the city should be working for us, not for the corporate landlords who are causing so many families to be homeless right now. The mayor and the entire city council should be looking out for our interests because we are 75% of the taxpayers in this city. I never thought that finding housing would be so difficult, not only having to find the time to go out and look while still working, but also finding a place that's safe, clean, and above all, on the first floor. I never thought that having gone through this experience could cause me trauma that I didn't recognize until a few days ago when I went to see an apartment and started checking if the windows open and if there was a door that would quickly lead me outside. Maybe I didn't realize how much it has affected me because, oh, well, that's what we have for now. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you, Ramon. So let me remind everyone that's coming up, I need you to state your name and your address for us. Next speaker is Martin Puentes.
Martin couldn't join us.
Hello?
Martin couldn't join us. So you can go to the next person.
Okay, go to the next person. Okay. How about Ryan Pyrie? Ryan?
Yep.
Are you there? Please state your name and your address, please.
My name is Ryan Peer. I'm one of the displaced residents from 271 Weathersfield Avenue, the fire that happened on October 30th.
Is that your current address?
I myself,
Ryan, just one question. Is that your current address now?
I am staying with a friend right now
Okay.
on Parsonage and Rocky Hill.
Okay. I'm sorry, Ryan. Please go ahead.
No worries. So I myself, like many of my other tenants, am still struggling for the search to be rehomed or rehome ourselves after being displaced from the fire. So it's been since October 30th. So we've missed, some of us have kids, so we've missed Halloween, we've missed Thanksgiving, we've missed Christmas, and we've missed New Year's, all while still being homeless. Support from the city or from any sort of public system is not even close to adequate. They gave us a little bit of liquid cash. I think depends on who you are. It was about $500 to $600, which I mean, the fire to us happened on Tuesday in a place that's not covered with roaches, and a lot of people were trying to get kicked, or a lot of places were trying to kick people out. It's really like a fend for yourself type situation. You figure that, you pay your rent on time and something that is completely out of your control happens and you wind up homeless. You think that the city would prop you up and have your back. Kind of like what was said before. It's ridiculous that the city offers us up to $4,000 in support for a security deposit, but we can't get it until we get an acceptance offer from our landlord. And then HHS tells us that it takes 1 to 4 weeks for that money to actually come from the city. So, these are private landlords. They have no sympathy or allegiance to us. So they have absolutely no interest in waiting 1 to 4 weeks to receive their deposit. So many of us are just without a choice. We're trying to save up to rehome ourselves, and we're, staying at places without kitchenettes and not able to put, things in a fridge, having to eat takeout, having to eat junk food, having to eat poorly and also expensive bathroom, your shower, your, clothes, dressers, any of that stuff. I mean, we're floating, and it really is like nobody cares. I mean, we all showed up to the building today and we're the only people here. You know what I mean? And there's a huge overwhelming apathy from the city. As long as they're not in actual tangible hot water, there's really no urgency. There's no sympathy. The fire, everybody got robbed, completely blind. There's absolutely no financial support from the city for that. It's, a lot of us lost thousands of dollars in electronics and valuables, and the police report asks you to fill out the serial number, and it's like, well, the item is gone. There's no serial number. I don't know. And there's not even like a set, like, oh, here's 1,500 in damages because you lost everything in your apartment to fire damage or to, an uninhabited building getting robbed overnight. Like there's just no fault, the fail safes for this. And like, we didn't do anything except for pay our rent on time, pay our security deposit, which we can't even get back. We had a meeting to put these packets together to do a proper small claims, and we got all the information together, and these landlords are shady. They're switching addresses where they receive mail at, so they can't get sued. And so now we're just all, I mean, we're owed, some of us two, three, anywhere between $2,000 to $6,000. Some of us, depending on what our rent was, we're owed this much money, and we can't receive any of it. So yeah.
Ryan, you've got 1 minute to summarize.
No worries.
Okay.
Yeah, to summarize, we're floating. This happens to people all the time. There's constantly fires in our neighborhoods, the surrounding neighborhoods. I work in Hartford. I see these fire calls all the time. And when I see them, I just know what these people are about to go through, which is, 2 to 6 months of absolute hell, of being homeless to no fault of your own, and being without support. So, the city needs to move to do something to help their taxpayers.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Next person up, and let me just say that Councilwoman Rosado has also joined the public hearing. Again, when I call your name, please don't forget to state your name and your address. Next person up is Van Born Powell. And to get things moving after Mr. Powell, we're going to go to Taylor Powell right afterwards so we can get this going. Okay, Mr. Powell, please state your name and your address, please.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Van Buren Powell, and my address is 271 Weathersfield Avenue, Hartford, Connecticut. I'm here today to bring a light upon the unjust treatment that displaced tenants receive from Hartford, Connecticut. It's not really much of how can I say? It's not really much of something to give towards people that really have no plan of this, that have never planned for this. So I just came here to know if going forward, whatever tenants get into Hartford, are they going to be treated just as worse or as better as we are being treated right now? It's a whole lot of displacement, a whole lot of unplanning, a whole lot of trying to figure it out day after day, and it's honestly stressing. I would like for these policies to address landlords that are not licensed, that are out and about in the world, but they're not here taking care of the properties that they own. I would like for these policies to do proper screenings for these landlords that make sure that whenever they're signing a contract with a tenant or contract with whoever, that they're openly stating that they're going to be just as well a part of the bargain as the other co-signer. I would just like for the Hartford to pay attention to not just the landlords or what's going on as profits are being made, but more so the people that are putting the work and the people that are paying the taxes and the people that are getting up day to day to just give, their checks out for the city to feel a little bit right. I would like that justness to come back and be received towards the tenants or the people that are paying their tax money. The policies for the landlords are a bit underlining, and they can get away with a lot if, people aren't screening right. So I like going forward that all tenants, all landlords have the proper means and communications to withstand a landlord-tenant contract and have a proper relationship in renting an apartment or a unit or whatever it may be. That's really much I have to say, though. I don't have much, but thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you taking the time out.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Next person up to speak is Taylor Powell. Then after Taylor, we have Marisol German. And then again, please state your name and your address.
Hello, my name is Taylor McIntyre. I was at 271 Weathersfield Avenue.
Oh, so you're not Taylor Powell?
Good evening, and thank you for taking the time to listen today. I'm here to speak in support of the bill because I have lived the consequences of what happens when protections are not strong enough. After a residential fire, my family and I lost our home. While we were grateful to be alive, the trauma did not end there. We were displaced, we were unable to access our belongings, and left without clear communication and accountability from the landlord. During this time, our apartments was broken into and irreplaceable property was stolen, including family heirlooms, family photos of deceased loved ones, and essential items that we depended on. In the weeks that followed, we lived in temporary housing, struggling to replace basic necessary things while navigating our unreturned security deposits and unanswered phone calls and the emotional toll of repeated uncertainty. We did everything we were supposed to do. We followed the process. We asked for help right away. And still we were left to fight for what should have been automatic and humane. This experience has affected every part of our lives, our mental health, our ability to work, our sense of safety, and our trust in the system meant to protect tenants during emergencies. This bill matters because it would not just change policies, it would change the outcomes. It would create clear accountability and dignity for people who are already dealing with loss and trauma. No one who survives a disaster should also have to battle silence, delay, and legal conflicts just to receive what was rightfully ours. I'm here today not only for myself, but for families who do not have the time, resources, or strength to speak up while they're in survival mode. Please pass this bill, because people's stability, mental health, and recovery depend on it. And that is my ending.
Thank you, Taylor. Next person up to speak is Marisol German, and then right after Marisol, we have Rachel McCoy. It appears that many of you are talking regarding the fire in Weathersfield Avenue. If that is not your current address, would you please state your current address?
Ready? Good evening, everybody. My name is Julia Morales. I'm here on behalf of Marisol Herman. She lives at 33 Shutters Place. And she wrote this. She said, I am displaced tenant from 271 Weathersfield Avenue. My nightmare didn't begin on October 30th, 2025. It started much earlier. The building was not being maintained. The tenants were organized and we learned together about rights and responsibilities. We paid our rent on time and yet we were forced to live without dignity. I am a single mother of 4 children and I can't explain how difficult it is for me to provide for all my family's needs. On October 30th, 2025, the worst part of my nightmare began. The building where we lived burned down. All of my belongings were lost. What little I had left was moved with the help of people from the community and my children's friends. They helped retrieve some of the things that had been left behind by the looters who were able to enter the building, thanks to the landlord's irresponsibility. We don't have an apartment right now. When I asked for help, they asked me if I had family members I could stay with instead of providing me with a place to live after my home burned down. I've been living with my children in a relative's apartment for 3 months, and I can't stay there any longer because we need our own space. Finding a new apartment hasn't been easy because I have to work twice as much to pay for application fees and all the other expenses. This incident has cost my family. I believe this ordinance is necessary to protect Hartford families since we make up 75% of the taxpayers in this city. It's unfair that we're still going through this and not one from the city has even called to check on us. As the city council and mayor, you should review your priorities and consider whether it is more important to accommodate landlords from the state's abusive landlords without licenses who are causing the working class of Hartford to live in hotels infested with cockroaches and rats as responsibilities, and then finding out that the city doesn't even require to have a license to rent. It's a slap in the face to a mother who pays her rent on time and still manages to put food on the table for her children. I am ashamed and angry to think that our money is in the hands of people who lack basic human decency. I hope this ordinance passes for the sake of the taxpayers you represent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person up is Rachel McCoy, and then followed by Stephen Keller.
Rachel couldn't make it.
Okay, then let's go to Stephen Keller.
Oh, okay.
Again, please state your name and your current address.
Sorry, Shirley. We have someone that has Rachel's testimony.
Oh, okay. And what's the person's name?
Oh, never mind. Okay, sorry. Getting mixed messages here. I'm Stefan. I'll go next on the list. Sorry about that.
Okay. So, Stefan, are you going to speak now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Why is there? Oh, there we go. Okay.
5 minutes.
Thank you all for.
And you, Stefan, would you please state your name and your
thank you for
address,
the opportunity
please?
to speak. My name is Stephen Keller. I live at 32 Ashley Street in Hartford. I'm going to be reading some words from our organizer, Teresa Quintana from Make the Road. Our address as an organization is 885 Weathersfield Ave, also in Hartford. Before I read Teresa's words, just a brief summary on the ordinance is that it's really important that this passes. One, it provides the city a framework for what its responsibilities are, and also gives the city the power to understand responsibilities for how to go after landlords, right? Because we know one of the issues is that the city has trouble recouping kind of expenses and things that landlords should be paying. This ordinance makes it easier to do that and also lays out the city's responsibilities as well. Because when there's lack of clarity, we know it makes things more challenging. That's the main reasons we want this to pass. But for Teresa, my name is Teresa Quintana, community organizer with Make the Road Connecticut. I've been working in Hartford for almost 6 years and 4 years with the tenants of Weathersfield Avenue. I have seen many irregularities and apathy from the city of Hartford, not only with the wonderful tenants here, but with many other tenants in the city. I saw how our community has been affected and dehumanized thanks to the lack of empathetic leadership from our local government and from the slumlords who are around the city. As a community organizer, I have learned together with my community how systems work, and that even then laws are in place, it does not mean that there is justice for the people of the city. The people here are taxpayers, are residents, and are demanding accountability of our elected officials and appointed people who are working on behalf of us to make sure they apply these laws to protect us, not against us. We have learned that sometimes elected officials forget about the importance of democracy and the people's rights to participation, as there are many meetings that we've experienced without language justice. And it is an easy rule to ignore when we don't know or understand. I have seen many times how the local government violates the civil rights of the people. I saw the lack of knowledge of who they should be working for. The programs that we have sometimes that are sold to residents of Hartford don't work for the tenants, but instead for those who want to abuse them. Creativity doesn't come from people with degrees or money. It comes from leaders who listen and make safe spaces for the people's participation. As an example of public hearing such as this that is only virtual as opposed to being hybrid, meaning the city council's not here to see directly the faces and the experiences of the tenants in the room. We are here to make sure that everyone is doing their job, right, to the best of their ability, and this ordinance would help folks do that. This ordinance will help to better protect mothers like Marisol, young couples like Van and Taylor, young people like Ryan, many of whom you've heard from today, and families like Victor who already adopt Hartford as their place to put down their roots for more than 25 years. Everyone is trying to contribute to this beautiful city. If you don't know the faces and the names of the people who you work for, we don't have anything and don't feel for them. Thank you so much for your time, and that is today's testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Next up to speak is Sarah White. followed by Marisol Navarro. Again, please state your name and your current address. Sarah White.
I see Marisol on the Zoom.
I think you're first.
If Marisol on the Zoom,
She's iPhone 2.
iPhone 2. Are you, Marisol, is that you? iPhone 2?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so why don't you, okay, so you're on mute, so you've got 5 minutes to testify at the public hearing. Are you for or against this ordinance?
Is this for Marisol?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm in favor of this ordinance. Good evening. My name is Marisol Navarro, and I currently live at 111 Sherbrooke Avenue in Hartford, apartment 106. The reason I'm in favor is like right now, I'm having kind of like a really hard time listening to these other tenants because it is something that we lived through a year and a half ago. And to see that people are still struggling and going through the same things that we went through at that time because codes are not being followed, also because things are not being handled in a timely manner by the city of Hartford, is heartbreaking. A lot of the stuff that happens after a family is displaced, the fire itself is a big issue, you know, because the landlords are not being held accountable, and to on top of it to add the time frames that are being of protocol that should be followed on the days after a fire, where people should be at least within 48 hours of the fire department stating that the premises are safe for people to go in and retrieve their belongings or whatever they have left, is not being handled properly. Because as for myself, my apartment was not affected by the fire at 105 Sherbrooke. It was that it was vandalized and looted, and I lost everything that I had. And it just listening to these people tonight, going through the things that I already went through and how hard it was. The fact that the days go by and you're staying at places like hotels that are not appropriate. They don't have kitchens. You don't have money. For us, like the people from 105, if it wasn't for the private sector that helped us with food and clothing, it would have made it even harder because there was no food vouchers, there was no cash help. And it's just also when you go to the office, like for example, the relocation department, I feel that there needs to be more training in general in these departments of the city of Hartford, so that when they communicate with the tenants that are going through such terrible moments, that everyone is on board, everyone has the same exact information. Because at least on our part, it was over 50 families at that time that got affected, and everyone we spoke to from the same department, everyone we spoke to, everyone had a different information, or some of us were getting certain things and the other ones weren't. It's just a matter of just like proper training within the city and addressing like code enforcement and just time frames, because it's not easy to be in a hotel for, at least I was there for almost 5 months, and to go through all these things, and at the end we're talking about a year and a half later. It was a year that I moved back into my apartment, to see the same things happening and nothing is being done. It's just heart-wrenching. And I just hope that this bill is passed or at least enforced, and that we see changes soon, because we love our city. We want to stay in our city, but
Okay,
it's hard.
Marisol, you have 30 seconds to wrap up.
Well, I just want to say that I hope that this bill passes and that it gets enforced properly in a timely manner when people are going through such rough times after a fire.
Okay, thank you so very much, Marisol. Sarah, is that you waiting up to speak next? Okay, great. So thank you again, Marisol. Again, please state your name and your address, and right after Sarah, we'll have Destiny McKnight.
My
Thank you
name
for
is Sarah
clarity.
White. My address is 167 Beacon Street in Hartford. I'm an attorney at the Connecticut Fair Housing Center. Our organizational address is 60 Papalusco Court, also in Hartford. And thank you for the opportunity to testify here today. I'm testifying in strong support of passing this ordinance. I've been a housing attorney for 15 years, and increasingly over the last few years have worked with groups of tenants, including many of these in this room and on Zoom, who have been displaced by fire and had to pick up, restart their lives, start all over again. And I've seen, the indignities that they've unfortunately had to go through. The Fair Housing Center is a civil rights organization. We primarily work on housing discrimination issues, but because unsafe housing conditions and fire and displacement are predominantly affecting Black and Latinx tenants in Hartford and many other communities, have increasingly focused this on as an area of our work. Much more needs to be done for Hartford tenants, but the good news is that there is, under state law, more that the city could be doing to provide support for displaced tenants and seek reimbursement from landlords. The overall framework is the Uniform Relocation Assistance Act, which was passed in 1971 and requires municipalities to plan for people's displacement, including by providing defined benefits, but also ensuring that adequate replacement housing is available, and when it's not, providing emergency housing and temporary housing. All of this, however, can be recouped from the landlord through a priority lien with the same priority as a tax lien or a private cause of action. And I understand from the city and from other municipalities that there has been issues in recouping some of these benefits, but I believe that this ordinance and this framework would make clear to all parties involved what the obligations are and make it easier for the city to recoup this money and to provide more services for the tenants, so we don't have to continue hearing stories like the ones we've heard tonight about people staying in unsafe motels, having to eat fast food, not having access to kitchenettes, sort of being left on their own to pick up their lives after a fire. Additionally, this ordinance would clarify that after 2 weeks of emergency housing, which could be in a hotel, that temporary housing should be provided that includes a kitchenette and adequate living space. This is consistent with the state law, the URAA, as well as a Supreme Court decision interpreting it, Dukes versus Durante, and would help tenants by ensuring that they have safe temporary housing and also make it easier for the city to recoup these costs. Additionally, theft has been an increasing problem after fires. Sadly, there seem to be people that are monitoring fires and predictably will loot buildings after fires, causing tenants to lose often all of their property. So if someone is able to make it out of the fire alive, unharmed, their stuff undamaged, they often will lose everything regardless. This ordinance would help with that by requiring landlords to provide security after a fire, as well as access for tenants to retrieve their belongings. And if for some reason a landlord does not, the city could step in and provide security, including 24-hour security, an off-duty police officer, things like that, to ensure that tenants don't have to continue having their belongings stolen. And then finally, this ordinance would improve the process for providing relocation assistance. As far as I can tell, Hartford hasn't really meaningfully changed its process since the 1980s or early 1990s. And a lot has changed since then, both in terms of what the housing market looked like and how we can make this process easier for people. As it stands, tenants have to go to 3 different offices to apply for relocation assistance immediately after losing their home to a fire. This could be simplified and improved, and I think that this ordinance provides a framework for how to do that. So that everybody knows what's required of them, tenants know what they can expect, and landlords know what they're on the hook for as well, so that the city can more easily recoup those costs. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. Next up
Madam
to,
Chair,
yes,
may I ask a question of Sarah?
absolutely. Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you. Ms. White, really two questions. The first question is, there are certainly times when a fire has occurred in an apartment building and the cause of the fire was something, some negligence on the part of a tenant. I know we've been speaking tonight mostly about concerns where the landlord has been negligent in not maintaining the building up to code. But I'm wondering whether you have a position with respect to the collectability of the relocation benefits when the landlord is not at fault for the cause of the fire.
So there's actually a Supreme Court case on point from 2024, PPC Realty versus City of Hartford, on this very issue. And in that case, there was a fire caused by a third party's arson. It was truly no one's fault, not the landlord's fault, not the tenant's fault. And the Supreme Court confirmed that that priority lien was still valid, even though the landlord was not at fault for the fire. So I think this shows, and the City of Hartford did a great job litigating that case, which, I mean, it gives us a very strong argument for the collectability of these URAA benefits, even when the blame can't be traced to the landlord, or there wasn't, underlying lack of code, lack of compliance with codes or something like that.
Okay, so basic position is the landlord pays no matter who's at fault. Second question, do you have a position with respect to tenant insurance?
I mean, it would be great if people have renters insurance. The reality is that most tenants in Hartford, and I will say even when I was a tenant in Hartford, I did not have renters insurance. They simply don't. The URAA applies regardless of whether someone has renters insurance. I think there's certainly things the city could do to increase access to renters insurance. I heard an idea mentioned of maybe creating, a pilot program where people are automatically enrolled in some zip codes, but that is not a substitute for what the city is actually legally mandated to do under the Uniform Relocation Assistance Act, or a landlord's liability for those amounts.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Gale. Thank you, Ms. White, or Attorney White. Next up to speak is Destiny Knight, followed by Dave Richardson.
I think Destiny might be with Marisol.
Is Destiny online? We could come back around.
I think you can talk to Dave.
Okay, so let's go on to Dave Richardson. And then we're going to be followed by Luke Melancus. Dave? Is Dave online or in? Okay. What about Luke? Luke?
I'm here.
Okay, great. You've got 5 minutes, Luke. Please state your name and your address, please.
My name is Luke Melanakos. My address is 221 Sherman Avenue in New Haven, 06511. I'm the Vice President of the Connecticut Tenants Union, and I worked very closely with the tenants who were displaced from 105 Sherbrooke at a fire that occurred there in August of 2024. And then those tenants were displaced for many months after that. So I'm speaking from that perspective.
Okay.
Going to try to just hit a few key points, since so many of the testimonies preceding me have really spoken to the heart of the issue on the table tonight. I just wanted to say from our experience, Connecticut Tenants Union, working with the displaced tenants who organized after their fire, the level of breakdown in communication that we experienced and that our members experienced during that time with city administration was really difficult to navigate and very frustrating. We were working with a lot of city employees who were well-intentioned, but the protocols and the procedures and the policies were not in place for them to effectively do their jobs or fulfill their roles. Part of what this ordinance does is simply clarify what the expectations are. You know, many of our folks were aware that the frontline staff who were trying to help them were not necessarily to blame for the lack of or the miscommunication and the false information. It was the overall lack of standardized policies and procedures and training that then resulted in people wasting tons of time, taking time off work to get nothing for it when they're already having just suffered huge financial losses in their personal life. Just a lot of negative impacts that could have been prevented with better administration. This ordinance lays out protocols that could help with that. It needs to be paired with real leadership and political will in city government to make sure that those policies and procedures are correctly implemented. Another thing that we experienced was ourselves, the Fair Housing Center, Sarah just spoke before me, other organizations who are on the front lines working with tenants through crisis every single day are ready and willing to advise, to share our expertise, to share our experiences. Of course, the tenants themselves were constantly sharing their own lived experience and expertise. And it was frustrating that that was not being utilized and taken advantage of by the relevant people in city administration who, if we would have been able to partner together, could have made it such a better experience for both parties. I also just want to emphasize that this ordinance is homelessness prevention, and homelessness prevention is always more cost effective than homelessness. We saw firsthand how close to that edge our people were, and it took fighting tooth and nail to try to get extensions on the temporary housing and get them relocated to adequate temporary housing so that they had a baseline from which to seek new housing and negotiate with their landlord and, actually get their needs addressed. But if that baseline wouldn't have been in place, which if folks hadn't organized, it wouldn't have been in place. Many more of the impacted people would have fallen into the homeless services system and dealt with other traumas and negative impacts that would have devastated them personally and also had ramifications for the city and for the city's budget. I also wanted to just say that Marisol and Dave and others were able in the end to negotiate with their landlord, Gray Hill Group, a New York-based large-scale investment firm landlord, negotiate for replacement apartments at the same rents that they were paying for longer-term leases, 2-year leases in several cases, which was beneficial for their housing stability and affordability, and was made possible by them having that baseline of temporary housing so that they could actually negotiate and have a little negotiating power with their landlord. If not for that, and they would have had to just take the most readily available apartment, so many people would have ended up in worse housing conditions for more money in
Luke, could you
unsafe.
summarize, please, Luke?
It's in the city's interest to give tenants that standing so that they can have a little more negotiating power. It's part of a medium-term response to the housing crisis that Hartford and the state of Connecticut is facing. Last thing I want to say, I just want to emphasize to this body as city council, your role in placing a check on the executive leadership of the city and really holding the city administration to the highest level, to the highest standard possible for the benefit of your constituents. That's what this ordinance is
Okay.
about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Gale, for keeping track of us. And Luke, I've got a question for you. You are out of New Haven.
Mhm.
Okay. How does the something similar? I mean, we're all urban areas. If you looked at their ordinance and their protocol for fires before?
Yeah, Sarah is the expert on the ordinances across the state. We did have a situation where we were working with a group of tenants who were displaced by a fire, but their displacement was brief. Unlike they were able to get the building repaired and people moved back in much faster. I will say that we've been able to build a good relationship with the code enforcement agency here in New Haven. So I don't want to say more than what I know about, but I will say that at least there's a good line of communication, and that was not our experience in Hartford.
Okay, thank you. Then I'll reach out to Sarah later on to ask that question. Okay, thank you, Luke.
Thank
Thank you so very much. I heard Dave Richardson was having some trouble technical wise.
Yes, I'm here.
You're here now, Dave? All right.
Yes, I am.
Please state your name and your address, Dave.
My name is Dave Richardson. I live at 105 Sherbrooke Avenue, apartment 42.
Okay, go ahead and testify, please.
This amendment actually would help residents like myself. There are a lot of things that went wrong when we had the fire, when we were displaced. For one, we were put in inferior motels, roach infested, mice infested, and mold. And we didn't get the assistance that we needed. We couldn't even get a place to put out to store our items, and we were kicked out of the building. And with that, we couldn't get in to get our stuff. I lost items. A lot of the other residents, I would say 95% of the residents lost items also. The landlord gave people the key to burglarize the apartments. The city never did anything. The mayor and the police department said the people from out of state, and they could not do anything about it. That means the landlord has the right to do whatever they want to do and not take care of the residents. Also, I'm disabled, I'm on low income. It costs me pretty close to almost $500 a week to eat out of the restaurant. People need assistance when it comes to being displaced and cannot make meals at home. We were moved to Candlewood Inn, which makes it a little bit better, but wasn't nowhere near as good as being back home. In the light of everything, even the money that was allocated for relocation, the $4,000, that was something that was established back in the 70s. To relocate an individual right now in the current market situation, it costs somewhere around about between $10,000 to $15,000. And if you're using the scale from in the 70s, there's no way that can be feasible today, almost 50 years later. So there need to be adjustments, and we need to follow proper protocol and get people back housed as soon as possible. The mayor did not do a good job because I know he went in after he took office after someone else. But when this fire took place, he was in charge, and the building department, the code enforcers did a terrible job even inspecting the property. They allowed the landlord to do whatever they feel like, and even try to repair the building without permit. The system was very, very, very bad and did not work in the best interest of the tenants. What I'm trying to get and what we need to get done in the city of Hartford is that the residents are being taken care of adequately and not being left out in the cold. I faced being out in the cold in December and in January twice because of the expiration date on the housing voucher that we got. And being disabled and low income, we were sent to places that no one really wants to live. You don't want to come out of your house and then there's a person outside using drugs. You don't want to park your vehicle and then have it vandalized or someone doing whatever they want to do outside and around it. No one wants to have to get back home before sunset because you don't want to deal with the elements outside because of the type of housing that they were trying to put them back into. I'm saying I support this bill 100%, and I hope it do pass so that the next tenant that's being displaced don't have to go through what I went through. Thank you.
Thank you. Good timing, Dave. I was going to tell you got 35 seconds left to wrap up. Okay, thank you so very much for your.
Any questions?
No, sir, we're good. No questions. Let me go on to the next person, Amanda Schoflet. Schofleet? Amanda?
Oh, you had it the first time. It's really.
Oh God, really? Oh my God.
Just about. Almost nobody does.
Okay, okay, pronounce that for me again, please, Amanda.
Yes. Good evening, council members and community. My name is Amanda Schoflet.
Oh, Schoflet.
Yep. I live at 1616 Boulevard in West Hartford, but I'm testifying tonight based on my disaster health nursing experience with fire victims and displaced families throughout Connecticut and specifically here in Hartford. I'm here tonight to strongly support this relocation ordinance because I've witnessed firsthand the devastating gaps that currently exist when tenants are suddenly displaced from unsafe housing. And my work responding to local disasters, which are most frequently residential fires, I've talked to families discharged from the emergency department at 2 a.m. with nothing but the clothes on their backs. I've watched parents desperately trying to figure out where their children will sleep that night, how they'll get to work the next morning, or where they'll find their essential medications, or even simple things like reading glasses. These aren't just housing problems, they're public health crises, and they unfold in real time and often in the dark. What this ordinance recognizes and what my professional experience confirms is that displacement creates cascading health emergencies. When families lose stable housing, and especially when they lose it suddenly, we see immediate trauma responses, particularly in children. We see chronic disease management that becomes completely disrupted when people lose their medications to fire, they lose their medical equipment, and often lose access to their medical providers when they are displaced to unfamiliar neighborhoods. We see mental health crises emerge from the acute stress of losing one's home and possessions, which I think many of the tenants tonight have spoken to very eloquently. The 48-hour window that this ordinance establishes for the initial assessment is not absolutely catastrophic. The comprehensive approach outlined in this ordinance, emergency housing with private bathrooms and access to a kitchen, immediate cash assistance, transportation to medical appointments, assistance accessing medications and essential items. These things are not luxuries. They're the basic stabilization measures that determine whether a displaced family can maintain their health, keep their jobs, keep their kids in school, which is among the most stabilizing strategies, and then eventually rebuild their lives. I've also seen what happens when displaced families fall through the cracks of a fragmented emergency response, which is all too often our experience. They bounce between inadequate temporary solutions, often in unfamiliar neighborhoods, as I said. They sleep in their cars sometimes or crowd into relatives' apartments when their vouchers run out, creating new housing code violations. Children miss school, adults lose employment. Chronic conditions worsen without proper medication management. The public health and economic costs of these failures far exceed the cost of proper relocation assistance, which I believe this ordinance goes a long way towards. This ordinance creates a more systematic and coordinated response that disaster response professionals like me know is essential. The designation of a Department of Health and Human Services lead, the emergency response protocols, the required interviews, and the individualized relocation plans, all of these things mirror best practices in the disaster response area that have been proven to work. I particularly want to emphasize the importance of the requirements of providing notices and conducting interviews in the tenant's preferred language. In a disaster response, language barriers can be life-threatening, and I've witnessed this firsthand. Families who don't understand their rights or the available resources make desperate decisions that can compromise their safety and health. Finally, the accountability mechanisms in this ordinance, the guarantee of payment letters, the reporting requirements for large displacement events, these create the transparency that's necessary and that I believe many of the others testifying tonight are asking for. That will ensure displaced families receive the help they're promised in the moment of crisis, and that as a city, we have a better way of preventing future crises. Council members, you have the opportunity tonight to further strengthen Hartford's response to housing displacement from a public health emergency into a managed transition with dignity, which everyone deserves. As a nurse who's worked closely with families losing everything, I urge you to pass this ordinance.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yep.
Let's see. I have no one else signed up, so I'm going to ask, is there anyone here, and speaking of in favor of this ordinance, that have not signed up to speak? Is anyone here?
I would like to speak,
I'm sorry?
Councilwoman, we have somebody.
and I would also like to speak after.
Okay. And please state your name and your address. Who do we have? Councilman Mitchell?
Diga su nombre y su dirección.
Ok, muy buenas noches, soy la señora Luisa Orellana. Soy la señora Luisa Orellana, soy víctima de un incendio.
I'm Ms. Luisa Orellana, and I am the victim of a house fire.
El lugar donde vivía es la 31 de la Helio
I lived at 31 Elliott
en Hartford, Connecticut.
in Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay.
Ahora mismo estoy viviendo en un hotel y de acá a como el día 3 de febrero me tengo que retirar.
So right now I'm living in a hotel, and between now and the 3rd of February, I have to leave there.
Pues no tengo dónde irme, estoy buscando departamentos, los departamentos están muy caros.
And I don't have anywhere to go. I'm looking at apartments, but the apartments are very expensive.
Estoy viviendo, o sea, de lo que las amistades me dan un plato de comida, otro día me da otra amistad, otro día otra amistad.
And I'm really just living off, what my friends can give me, a plate of food, something from another friend another day, just like that.
Es muy difícil toda esta situación, no es nada fácil para mí, yo estoy sola.
And it's really hard for me. This whole situation is nothing easy, and I'm on my own.
Toda mi familia está en Perú.
All of my family's in Peru.
Y bueno, mis hijas también están afectadas por lo que me ha sucedido. Esto fue muy catastrófico para mí.
And my children have also been affected by what happened to me. This was really catastrophic for me.
Incluso murió una persona ahí donde yo pues estaba viviendo.
Someone died in that fire where I was living.
Es muy duro la situación. Pues todos los días cuando llega el anochecer estoy pensando a dónde me voy a ir a vivir, porque no es fácil.
It's a hard situation because every night I ask, where am I going to go? Where am I going to live? It's not easy.
Es muy duro la situación para mí. A veces quisiera regresarme a mi país, pero no puedo. Son muchos años de sacrificio.
It's really hard for me, and sometimes I think about going back to my country, but I can't, and I've sacrificed so many years here.
Yo no sé de qué manera puedo solucionar todos estos problemas. Ya la Cruz Roja, yo no tengo ayuda de la Cruz Roja, solamente los $4,000 que me están ayudando.
So I really don't know at this point how to resolve this problem. I'm not getting any more help from the Red Cross, only that $4,000 payment.
Incluso he perdido todo mi dinero. Yo tenía dinero en efectivo dentro de la casa.
And I also had money, I had cash that I had kept in the house, in the apartment, and that's lost as well.
Es mis cosas materiales, mi sacrificio de muchos años, ¿no?
And my material things, my belongings, which are things that I worked and sacrificed for many years.
Pues ahora mismo, como le estaba explicando, tengo chance solamente hasta el día 3 de febrero para retirarme del hotel. O sea, yo he hablado con ellos para que me den una extensión, pero me han dicho que no.
And so as I told you, right now I have only until February 3rd to leave the hotel. And, you know, I've talked to them and I've said, can I get an extension? And they told me no.
Okay. And Councilman Mitchum, was the fire at 31 Elliott? Is that the location of the fire?
El incendio fue en 31 de la Helio.
Sí, pero el fuego empezó en la 29.
Yeah, the fire started in 29.
Son dos buildings.
There are two buildings that burned.
Okay, thank you. I believe Councilwoman Rosado have a couple of questions. And after Councilwoman Rosado, then I think there was two other people here who did not sign up, which we will have speak Chelsea and then Anna afterwards. Okay? Councilwoman Rosado.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Señora, lo siento mucho por lo que usted ha estado pasando. ¿Me podría decir, refrescarme la memoria, el incendio de usted de la Elliott Street fue cuándo?
7 de octubre.
¿El 17 de octubre?
El 27.
Ok, el 27 de octubre. ¿Qué ayuda? Yo oí que la ciudad le dio ¿cuánto? $4,000.
Es para el depósito de la renta.
Ok. ¿Y usted se ha mudado para un nuevo sitio?
No, estoy viviendo en el hotel.
Ok, so la ciudad le dio los $4,000 para que usted diera un depósito para un nuevo apartamento, pero no ha podido hacer eso todavía.
No, porque todas las rentas están muy caras. Entonces yo tampoco no cuento con dinero, ¿me entiende?
¿Y
yo no cuento.
cuántos años usted tuvo viviendo en la Elliott Street?
Trabajando.
Perdóneme.
Estaba trabajando.
No. ¿Cuánto tiempo usted vivió en la Elliott Street?
Oh, como 9, 10 años.
Okay. Entonces, ¿el landlord le devolvió su depósito?
No.
¿Y usted lo tiene en corte ahora mismo para que le devuelva su depósito?
No.
Okay. Y obviamente en el hotel donde se está quedando ya se le han acabado los fondos porque ya la ciudad no le cobra, no le está pagando ese hotel, ¿correcto?
El día 3 de febrero me tengo que retirar del hotel. Okay. Yo les he pedido una extensión.
Okay. Entonces, ¿la ciudad le ha proveído algún servicio para que usted consiga apartamento? ¿Lo ha puesto como un social worker o el departamento que busca apartamentos con usted, pero no ha podido conseguir?
No he podido conseguir porque todo está muy caro. Hay de 1,600, 1,800. O sea, está demasiado caro la renta.
¿Y cuánto era su renta en la Elliott Street?
Como 1,150, 1,150.
Y mi última pregunta, como aquí que tenemos a la señora Marisol, que ya pudo hablar con el landlord y volvió al apartamento, ¿usted no ha tenido esa misma suerte? ¿No ha hecho nada para hablar con el landlord a ver si la pueden dejar mudarse para atrás?
A la casa.
Ajá.
Pero la casa está totalmente...
Ok, so fue pérdida total todas las unidades de la casa.
Toda pérdida total. Incluso hay una persona que falleció en la casa.
Ok, gracias por esa información.
A ustedes. Muchas gracias.
So, Councilman Rosado, would you like to share with us Spanish speaking, what the conversation was regarding?
Well, my conversation with her is I asked her when did this take place. I think she said October 27th. And I asked her if the city had provided her with $4,000, and she said yes. I also asked her if the city had provided her with some sort of help from social worker from the relocation services in order to help her find an apartment, and she said yes, but that they're all very expensive. The rents are 1,800, 1,900. I asked her how much was her rent. She said that it was 1,100. I asked her if she perhaps had the same luck that Miss Marisol had moving back, but I overlooked that the house was, damaged completely, and actually someone died there. So basically, the city of Hartford, I believe, has had her in a hotel, but she needs to move out on February 3rd.
Gotcha.
Thank you,
Okay,
Madam
thank you
Chair.
so very much for that help. No, thank you. We're gonna follow up.
Yes,
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
yeah, and I will copy you on the follow-up.
Appreciate it. Okay, so we had two other speaker who did not sign up but would like to speak in favor of this ordinance. Chelsea, please state your name and you've got 5 minutes.
Sure. Can you hear me okay? Okay, yeah.
Yes, we can.
Chelsea Connery, my address is 68 Edwards Street in New Haven. I'm also a staff attorney at the Connecticut Fair Housing Center. Our organizational address, as Sarah said, is 60 Papalushko Circle in Hartford. I'm testifying in support of the ordinance amending Chapter 18, Article 9 of the Municipal Code. In my role as a staff attorney in the past year and a half, I've worked with dozens of tenants from Hartford displaced by fires alongside my colleague Sarah, who testified earlier. But even the folks that we have been able to work with only represent a small percentage of the overall tenants displaced by over 83 residential fires that took place in the city in 2025. Given how traumatizing these experiences are, I'm immensely proud of and commend the impacted residents who have spoken this evening, and also feel, tremendously sad that they have to be put in that position. This ordinance is vitally important to Hartford residents who are a vast majority renters, and it's frankly common sense. The proposed ordinance codifies what is already required by state law, the Uniform Relocation Assistance Act, the regulations governing that act, and Connecticut Supreme Court precedent interpreting that act. And it does so in a way that I think is, helpfully consolidated and more understandable and accessible. That is, it's important to emphasize that the ordinance is not imposing some burdensome new mandate on the city. It is clarifying to Hartford officials and residents the city's obligation to tenants displaced by housing code enforcement activity, among other things. In my personal experience, and which is corroborated by decades of case law and Department of Housing decisions on the topic, this type of clarification is necessary because the city has, at best, been obstructionist towards tenants who try to seek what they're entitled to under Uniform Relocation Assistance Act, and at worst, have failed entirely or put tenants in dangerous circumstances in contradiction of the law. As Sarah detailed, the ordinance also makes clear the existing state law that provides for the city's ability to recoup their costs. And even more importantly, the proposed ordinance creates a clear Uniform Relocation Assistance Act implementation structure and clear action steps, which, given what I just shared and given what folks have, like Luke and Sarah and the tenants who have experienced these things, right? It is that structure to guide the actions that are mandated under law, which seems like a necessary step. And then finally, there are, the ordinance proposes some reporting requirements, which I think are also important to ensure proper implementation and monitor patterns in implementation, which can help, and the need for assistance under the Uniform Relocation Assistance Act in Hartford, which could help the city plan year to year. So overall, we are in support of this proposed ordinance passing in Hartford, and appreciate everyone taking the time tonight to hear our testimony.
Okay. Thank you, Chelsea. Oh, Chelsea. Okay, pronouncing people's name wrong. Sorry about that. Other person that raised their hands who would like to speak in favor of this ordinance, I believe is Anna.
Hannah?
Yep, there you
Yes.
go. You
All right.
have 5 minutes. Please state your name and your address, please.
My name is Hannah Schreier. I live at 3 West Rock Avenue in New Haven, Connecticut, and I'm the president of Connecticut Tenants Union. I, like many other folks who have spoken before me, am frankly appalled to hear the same stories that I heard last year when 60 members of the Concord Hills Tenant Union faced the same issues with the city's response to displacement after an electrical fire. The city of Hartford is experiencing a structural problem that the ordinance addresses well. And actually, last year, in February, the city of East Hartford adopted a version of this ordinance in response to what was happening to their neighbors next door, understanding that if they didn't act now to modernize and clarify their policies, that many more of their residents would suffer unnecessary distress and harm. While we cannot control sometimes the fact of displacement or a fire, we can control enforcing housing code. We can control the clarity and ease that the residents of a city navigates through the system after they are displaced. And I sincerely hope that this council does their duty to the residents of this city and passes this ordinance, because this problem is not going to go away. And I frankly don't know if I can bear coming again to another city council public hearing to hear the exact same stories over and over again. If this ordinance had been put in place last year, the folks who are testifying today would not be here and would not be experiencing the seriousness and severity of, emotional, financial, and physical distress. And so this is not a problem that's going to go away. And I sincerely hope that the council acts now rather than later to preserve the stability of their residents for the future. And I am really sincerely sorry to hear the testimonies of folks tonight because this was preventable in terms of the responses that they could have received from the city. And that
Okay,
is my
thank you.
testimony.
Appreciate it. Last person to speak in favor of this ordinance would be Yesenia Martinez Alamo.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Yesenia Martinez. I'm resident of Hartford. I am not victim of any fire, but I have some people that missed the houses. At this moment, I'm helping a family that it was not fire, but was for landlord fraud. But when I start to have those family, I figure out that specific the Motel 6 on Weatherfield was really full. Five of the family of the was from fires, and they have the same history different consequence, but the same thing. They only have the money from this job. They don't have money from the deposit. The insurance don't want to pay, or they pay so little, or they don't have insurance. The motel only allow you 30 days. If your family is more than 5, you have to pay 3 or 4 rooms extra. So every room is $95 each room every day. That costs like 630 weekly. Even the family helping, there's a nurse a professional nurse, and her son that's professional insurance broker. They can't pay that. They had to pay for 4 room for his family, and it's a lot. So they can't pay for a rent. They can't pay for a deposit either. So they had to jump from hotel to hotel every 30 or 20 days, depending on the motel. Figure out if the motel allow pets, if they figure out if the school want to send the bus through the hotel. And it's a mess, really. And I noticed that all those motels have like no one, not two. It's like 5, 6, 7 family in the same motel. And every time they had to change from motel through motel all the way Connecticut. And that's unfair. Really, really unfair. So everybody called to 211 and they don't have money. They only refer through other organization. They don't have service. They don't have money. They don't have enough nothing, only food and clothes. So when they finally find a place that can pay the rent, they say, okay, we can pay the rent, but the landlord had to come and in your favor and sign some document. Any landlord do that, any. So they have to still like jump around until somebody decide to say, you know what, I can help you. I I in favor this form.
Okay.
And I wish, but you need to see all the 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 holes the system have, because it's not only make a law, it's see what happened when this happened. Not only for family on fire issues, it's only it's all kind of family that miss the houses for any reason, for gas, water damage, or fraud.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I think I just got a text that Stephanie Melendez. Stephanie Melendez wanted us to speak.
She left apparently.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, seeing that we have no one to speak in favor of, is there anyone here to speak against this ordinance? Is there anyone here to speak against this ordinance? Is there anyone here speaking against this ordinance? Seeing or hearing no other speaker for or against the ordinance, there's no other item on the agenda, I am going to hereby adjourn the public hearing. Good night, everyone, and thank you so very much for testifying.
Good night.